Reports are starting to circulate that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis will launch his presidential campaign next week. Sources telling Fox News and the Wall Street Journal, as well as other agencies and publications, that the conservative governor will file formal paperwork with the Federal Election Commission sometime next week, formally entering the race for the White House in 2024. Dr. Christopher Cooper is a distinguished professor of political science and public affairs at Western Carolina University. He joins us live to talk more about all of this. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So first off here, a surprise. Was this expected? What are your thoughts overall?
You know, I think it's certainly not a surprise that he's running, right? I mean, that's like saying, is water wet, right? The answer was yes. We knew it was yes. But the question was when. When was he finally going to declare that he was running for office? And it appears that that's going to be next week. So that part is maybe a little bit of a surprise. We just didn't know. That was the mystery. But there was certainly no mystery that Ron DeSantis was going to run for president of the United States.
And we do know that DeSantis has been in the headlines quite a bit over the last several weeks, several months. We're talking about his fight against Disney, to signing of legislation against gender-affirming care. Do you think he's trying to garner up this media attention prior to making that big announcement?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, try to name another governor of the United States, right? If you're a watcher who pays attention to the stuff all the time, you may be able to name your governor, maybe one more. But I bet that the vast majority of Americans can name Ron DeSantis. It's working, right? He is getting media coverage. He's getting attention. He's leaning into the culture wars. And at least to this point, if we judge by name recognition, I think this has been an effective strategy. What we're going to have to see, of course, is whether he can translate that name recognition into fundraising, into getting the right campaign consultants, into running a campaign, and to somehow differentiating himself from Donald Trump while not upsetting Donald Trump voters.
Any idea why he would choose next week specifically? Is there any sort of indication as to the significance of next week?
You know, I don't know that there's anything special about next week. It just maybe sort of feels like the right time. Obviously, Trump's been out there for a while. Trump's been getting some more negative headlines lately. There's the potential that there might be more allegations coming out about Trump, or perhaps even maybe some more indictments. So he's got to get out soon, though, right? To run an official campaign, to raise the kind of money he needs to, he's going to have to actually make this thing official soon. Looks like it's next week. I'm sure it's strategic, but I don't think next week is magic.
What happens next? So he does, of course, announce next week, let's say, that he is going to run for president. What is the next step that plays out in all of this?
You know, money, 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 right? I think for Ron DeSantis, that has to be job one. He's going to try to come out. He's going to obviously try to get a big boost right when he announces. And then what he'll hope is he can raise enough money. So then the fact that he raised a lot of money will be yet another positive story, right? He has to show he's not just a candidate, but he's a serious candidate. He has to show that he's different than Donald Trump. He has to show that he's different than Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Mike Pence, and the host of other people who are interested in this job. So it's going to be a pretty quick ramp up. But it's been cresting for a while. Again, we sort of knew this was coming. You've got to figure that he's going to come out of the gate. He also got some endorsements from Iowa the other week from some state legislators. That may not seem like a big deal, right? You probably can't name an average Iowa state legislator, but it is actually kind of a big deal. Iowa, of course, comes early. To be able to sew up those sort of endorsements does mean something. So money, endorsements, and the way those two things tie to each other, that's what we're going to see next.
So I guess the big question here, what are DeSantis's chances for the party nomination against, let's say, Trump?
Sure. Yeah, let's say Trump, right? I mean, I think certainly he is the name that people know the most. I mean, it's really hard to handicap primaries, particularly because we don't know how many candidates are in there. I do think the more candidates that are in, the better it is for Donald Trump, right? So if DeSantis and Haley and Scott and Pence and a host of other folks all split the anti-Trump vote, then clearly Trump is going to end up with the nomination. So DeSantis is going to want to winnow that field down as small a number as he can early. I think his odds are as good as anybody's, but also I wouldn't bet against Donald Trump to win the primary.
And what about his chances against President Biden if he does make it that far? He does get the party's nomination. If you had a DeSantis and Biden matchup, who comes out on top?
Again, that's another great question. I don't think we know quite the answer. I think we do know it's close, right? It is a very divided country, as everybody has talked about. It is as close to a 50-50 country as we've seen. So any candidate who makes it out of either party's nomination process is going to be a serious contender. We shouldn't be ruling anybody out. The key is, can they get out of the primary? If so, I really, truly think it's a coin toss what the outcome is going to be.
And I guess the other question here is about Mike Pence. Do we think that he's actually going to enter the race at some point? I feel like we haven't gotten a solid answer on that.
No, we haven't. I do think he probably will declare at some point. So in my home state of North Carolina, for example, Mike Pence is speaking at a Republican Party event next week. So is Donald Trump. And so he's making the rounds. He's spending time in the key states. He's giving us every indication that he is at least strongly considering running, if not that it is going to happen and it's just a matter of time. So I do think he will likely run. I think he'll be in there. He'll be a serious contender, particularly among the folks that think that, perhaps Donald Trump went a little bit too far. They liked his policies, but they wish he would, be a little less quick with the Twitter finger, a little less quick with the indictments. I think Mike Pence might look like a good option for those folks.
All right. Dr. Christopher Cooper with Western Carolina University, thank you so much, as always, for taking the time here to join us. Anything you want to add about all of this before I let you go?
Just that it's early. But we are very much in the swing of things. 2024 is here in 2023. So if you're trying to escape presidential politics, I got bad news for you. We're in for a long haul.
Yeah, that ain't happening at all. All right. Thank you again for taking the time. We appreciate it.